This is part 3 of my Solving a Murder Mystery Advent Calendar. Day 19, A Velvet Prison. But before we get on to that, and actually I'm doing day 20 as well at the same time, because I'm a bit behind. But I've just opened the book to day 19, and it's the shortest chapter by far yet. It's only a page and a half. And I'm just aware that though technically I've got 6 days or 6 chapters left, but they could be really small amounts of text each day. Hello, little snow cat. And the story is rapidly coming to an end in terms of, in the last chapter, Ezra and his team wanted to draw everyone together in the lounge car to present their findings and make their accusations to Agatha. I don't think it is going to be her, because surely in the traditional murder mystery style there's going to be a last minute twist that is revealed at the grand meeting of all the suspects. But there's not much, there's not much book left, so I need to make my choice about who I think did it. I genuinely am not sure in between Imogen and Cordelia. I was even thinking about it whilst walking to a client's house earlier. I have to make up my mind. I have to choose one or the other, don't I? And thinking it over, I still can see evidence and arguments for both of them. I think my suspicions of Cordelia are a bit more evidence and fact based in terms of the narrative, because of the problems with her husband's family business, the fact that she's, a rich, powerful woman, presumably. I just assume if you're rich, you're also powerful and able to get people to do your dirty work for you. She's been very quiet, and if she is guilty, then that explains Alistair's strange behaviour. His strange behaviour could be explained with other people being guilty as well. And then Imogen's guilt is more around the vibes, I think, with her character, in terms of, she's too nice to everyone. She's just a bit suspicious with the way she's kind of planted the seed of ideas in a couple of people's minds. So and the way that she keeps defending Agatha, she, unusually loyal. Yes, if she did kill Lily for jealousy because she wanted to be the next protege, she hasn't yet stepped up to that role. There doesn't seem to be the protege role this year, but maybe she feels if she attends the train as a regular customer in this first year of its rejuvenation, then she'll, catch Agatha's eye and be able to be the protege for the second year that the train runs in its new version. And then she'd be able to be involved in the actual mystery and the craft and the story writing. So they've both got fairly good reasons for murder. Neither of them have an alibi that we have been presented with. Both of them have a story behind why they could have done it. Maybe Cordelia is slightly more suspicious because she was definitely there on the train 5 years ago. Because I can't remember if we specifically know if Imogen was there or not. Because even if she said it's her first time on the train, Sebastian said that as well, and it clearly wasn't. People have lied about this. In terms of the classic means, motive and opportunity, she was pushed down some stairs, so that's means for basically anyone able-bodied. Motive, we've been over. Opportunity, again, it happened on a busy evening that she'd just been left alone in the observation car. The only thing that kind of makes Imogen seem a bit more innocent is that there was that scene where her room had been rummaged through, and if she was the guilty party, why would she lie about her room being rummaged around? Unless somebody else suspected her, or if she had something to hide, I'm not sure she would have come forward and said who was rummaging in my room. And the whole locket thing, I think the puzzles have said that the locket is important, but I think that's slightly a red herring along the lines of leading to Agatha being the guilty party, because I do think Sebastian thought that Agatha was guilty in the same way that Ezra and everyone does. And so the fact that Agatha had Lily's locket, Sebastian clearly broke into her, was finally successful in breaking into her room and stealing it, so that's why he had it in his hand when he died. But just because he believes that doesn't mean he was right. And also, I'm now having second thoughts. Why would the locket have a photo of Lily inside it? I presume this is her locket. So when it was with her, it didn't have her photo. So did Agatha inherit it kind of from Lily and put a photo of Lily in it because she's genuinely grieving the loss of her protege. Yeah, I'm not sure. I need to lock in an answer, but I can't. So let's anyway, let's read day 19 before I get myself all more worked up. Okay, 2 minutes later, finish the chapter. It's very much just leading into the final gathering of people. You know, Ezra talking to his teammates, like rehearsing basically how they're going to present their findings. There was one interesting scene which doesn't help me decide who I think did it, but maybe plants the seed in Ezra's head that it's not Agatha. So it's he's just sitting in the library car, reflecting, gathering his nerves, and Imogen approaches him with a cup of tea, and she says, "It's definitely not Agatha. You're all wrong. Been with her all day. I've seen her grief. I've seen her despair. The woman is not a killer. She's a heartbroken old woman." And then it says, "Her plea was so heartfelt, so utterly and completely convincing that for a fraction of a second, a sliver of doubt pierced Ezra's own airtight certainty." And then she begs with him some more and says her eyes fill with tears and says, you know, "Don't destroy an innocent woman just for the sake of a tidy ending. There must be another explanation." Then as she leaves, because Ezra says, "Thank you for the tea, I'll keep that in mind," there's just a line that says, "Ezra watched her go, his last lingering shred of doubt now gone, replaced with a cold, hard certainty. He was not just facing a killer, he was facing the most brilliant and ruthless actress he'd ever met." Now, they have mentioned before that they think that Agatha is a good actress and that she's, you know, faking her sincerity. But is this now Ezra coming around to my way of thinking? But I guess we'll find out in a moment. But first of all, we have to do the puzzle. So it's 4 statements from 4 key passengers about their whereabouts during the hour that Sebastian was murdered. 3 are true, 1 is a lie. Task is to identify the liar, and in doing so, determine the one fact that Ezra can take as an absolute certainty. So the statements are from Penelope: "I was in the library for the entire hour. Dashiell was in there with me." Dashiell says, "I was in the library until 3:30, then I went to the bar car. Alistair arrived at the bar car at 3:45. Alistair says, "I was in the dining car until 3:45, at which point I went to the bar car." Vivian says, "I saw Alistair in the dining car at 3:40. And I immediately thought Penelope is the one lying, because Dashiell was having an argument with Agatha for the entire hour that Sebastian was lying dead. And I don't know if this puzzle is meant to fit in with that part of the story, but even if it's not, it still fits that the other 3 are correct and Penelope's lying. Let's go on to day 20. The trap is set. I haven't finished the chapter, I just hit record again because I thought surely there's got to be multiple layers to this mystery so that it's not just who killed Lily. I'm just thinking back to that original note that Lily made about the exchange happened in the stockyard in Vienna. Surely that's got nothing to do with Imogen. She was definitely not on the scene at that point. So I wonder if that's a completely different mystery to who killed Lily, and that all the problems around the train have nothing to do with her death. They're their own separate problem for Agatha. Yes, they make Agatha look guilty, but they're actually 2 parallel problems. I'm at the part of the story where Ezra is presenting all his evidence. It's actually not going through it in detail. It just says he laid out his plan and all the evidence was provided. So it's kind of details are skimmed over. I guess because we already know them from following him for the last 20 days. He's presenting it very passionately, but I do have to remember that he's been wrong before. He's got the line, "He constructed a perfect airtight prison of logic around her," Agatha. "Now it was time to bait the trap for the real killer." So the lie he's telling is that the poison used to kill Sebastian is a paralysing neurotoxin derived from the skin of the golden poison dart frog of South America. And then he goes, you know, this is very obscure. It's only known to a few toxicologists and the mystery writer on this train who used that exact poison as the central plot device in her international best-selling novel, The Serpent's Kiss. Now, hang on, what did the inspector... I still haven't finished reading the chapter, but what did the inspector say actually killed him? The forensic examiner just tells them the poison was inserted with a stiletto into the ear canal. He just says poison, it doesn't say where from. Let's go back to day 20. And Imogen has stood up and gone, wait, don't arrest her. They expected another tearful, passionate defense of her idol. But her voice is no longer soft. You're wrong, she says. So she's saying that he is wrong about the book. It's not a neurotoxin, it was a cardiotoxin, and it's from a fish, not a frog. So she corrects him on the book, first of all. And says, and then she kept going. The dam of her suppressed ego, of her need for recognition, had broken. Which is interesting. I wouldn't have thought of her as being particularly egotistical. Attention to detail, definitely. Logical. But she's been just going along in the background this whole time. Like, keeping an eye on everyone, sure. Eavesdropping a bit, and taking notes, but not putting herself forward in the like egotistical way. She's been kind of behind Agatha in her court the whole time. This is what she says after talking about the book bit. She says, and the method, the entry wound in the ear, it's a classic technique, of course, for bypassing the blood-brain barrier and ensuring a clean delivery. But an amateur like Dame Agatha, whose knowledge is purely theoretical, would almost certainly have ... She caught herself. She realised a fraction of a second too late what she had said, what she had revealed. She had just confessed. Yep. I'm going to look back at my video and see what day it was that I said I suspected Imogen. So what are they going to do for the last 4 days? Anyway, on to the puzzle for day 20. This is another logic puzzle. 5 people sit in 5 seats, numbered 1 to 5 from left to right. Each has a different drink and is associated with a different object. One of them is the killer. Your task is to use the clues to determine who is who and what is what. You know, like Myrtle, you have a series of statements, like the one we had earlier in the book. Okay, the person with the journal is drinking tea. Penelope is in the middle seat. Statement number 9. Imogen has the dagger. What? Based on your deductions, who has the dagger? It's just told us Imogen has the dagger. Hang on. I didn't check the corrections PDF. Maybe this is where I've gone wrong. By which I mean, they've gone wrong. Let's go to the PDF. Oh, no. There's no correction on the PDF. It goes from day 18 to day 21. I mean, presumably it's not, although it ends with, based on your deductions, who has the dagger, what they mean is, where is each person sitting, what is each person drinking, what they're holding. If the answer for the day is just, Imogen has the dagger, then that's going to be annoying. But I'll do it anyway. So what are the items? So there's water, tea. The person with the locket is sitting somewhere to the left of the person drinking tea. Agatha's on the far left, so they can't be next to Agatha. So Imogen can't have the tea, or the wine, or the brandy. Okay, I was struggling with this, so I looked at the hints, which weren't very useful. So then I wasn't getting anywhere, apart from... You can be able to see this? I'm not sure. This I tried the kind of classic grid. And here's a recreation of what's in the book, with like deductions of following the instructions. Basically, this is another one of the broken puzzles, unfortunately. So I pulled up the answer and it doesn't follow the logic prompts in the book, unfortunately. So for example, it says the person with the key sits immediately to the right of the person drinking coffee, but on the answer, key and coffee are with the same person. It's not on the person to the right.
Do you want to drink of anything?
I can have another tea.
Another tea?
Decaf.
Okay. A small one.
Yeah. I'm just explaining how this is another broken puzzle.
Oh dear.
So statement number 5 was the person with the manuscript is sitting next to the person with the locket. And the answer, they're not. I'll put it on screen. Obviously, Imogen has the dagger is a clear one they've got wrong. Here she has the key. It's just impossible to solve with the wrong prompts, and also, based on your deduction, who has the dagger? Imogen has the dagger, of course she does. But according to this, the answer is Dashiell, which annoys me on twofold. One, the logic prompts are wrong, but two, that means unless Dashiell and Imogen were working together, it means that the puzzles don't fit in with the story, that they're just tacked on the end using the same character names and everything, but plot-wise don't fit in with the story. That's really freaking frustrating. Now I'm going to go online and see if anybody else is complaining about that. I swear the drama behind this book is more interesting than the story itself. So, yeah, people on Reddit saying day 20 is another busted puzzle and there's no correction. So, I'm not going mad. But interestingly, it seems that people who bought it on Kindle have had it, like, sucked back off their Kindle. That's not the right terminology. They've had it removed from their Kindle by Amazon. So, like, so not only was the listing for the physical book withdrawn from Amazon, the Kindle version has been withdrawn and deleted off people's devices. And then an older post on the Reddit thread said that if you had the Kindle version, it didn't have any of the puzzles. It was just the story. And that if you wanted to do the puzzles, you had to go to the QR code at the back of the Kindle book and follow the link to the Google Drive where all the like hints and solutions and stuff are, and corrections are. I did know that there was a copy of the Kindle stuff on the drive. Yeah, so it is just the puzzles, it's not the whole story. Why weren't the puzzles included in the Kindle file? That's so strange. I can't think of any reason why they wouldn't have been. It's not like they're sort of impossible to display on an e-ink reader. Also strange that there were no instructions at the start of the Kindle book being like, for whatever reason, we can't print the puzzles, we can't e-publish the puzzles, so you have to go to this particular link and put the link at the beginning of the book. Another strange thing, sorry, going back to the actual story, not the weird drama around the book. I've just had a thought, and this is not going to come up in the plot, I'm sure, but I've been flicking through it and it flicked back to the beginning where it explains that we, the reader, are chosen as a consulting detective and Ezra is sending us documents and we're looking it over to like double check his work. And this is on behalf of, well, the letter is from a lawyer on behalf of a private and confidential client. When Ezra and Vivian have been talking to each other, there is no mention of a client. It's still never been mentioned who sent Ezra that note right back at day one at the beginning. He's never thoroughly questioned her about if she came up with the idea for this whole him going on a train thing. She's never mentioned being hired by anyone. They're still continuing on this path of like, it seems like she's paid £30,000 for his ticket and another 30 grand for her own. And that this was all her idea tonight in order to try and revive his career. Yes, and like I said, I don't think this will come up plot-wise, but this is some amazing last-minute twist. But why are neither of them questioning who the client is? Even mentioning that there is a client. Anyway, I'm off to a Christmas party this evening, so let's crack on with an early catch-up on the mystery advent calendar, just wrapping everything up, I think, at this point. What are we up to? Day 21. The performance of a lifetime. It's another short one. Like a page and a quarter. It's not even half. Oh, okay. So apparently the Italian inspector has had a team uncovering Imogen's past, which hasn't been shared with us, but that was apparently one of the elements that convinced Ezra it was her, not Agatha. Yeah, and as I thought, she's a writer who lost out on a prize to Lily. There's one final, irrefutable piece of proof that connects you, and only you, to the murders. The archival ink. There's been no mention of ink so far in this story. A rare, invisible, fluorescent archival ink used by collectors of rare books to mark their most valuable documents. Found traces on the scattered pages of Lily Moncler's manuscript under the fingernails of Sebastian Blackwood. I wish these kind of details would be shared with us. An ink used by a collector to mark her own precious first edition mystery novels. I think ink that was on your hands in your room, the original crime scene. An ink that you transferred to Lily's pages as you ripped them from her hands and scattered them as snow, a trophy of your first edit. Hang on. Is this what they're hinging their evidence on? Because the library in the train is full of first edition mystery novels. I'm sure that was definitely mentioned. So if they also have archival ink on them, which they might, then the ink being on the manuscript and such wouldn't be evidence. So the ink transferred from Lily's hands to the manuscript pages that she grabbed. She kept a few of them in her room. Sebastian found them, grabbed for them, and that's why it's under his fingernails. Oh no, in his desperate struggle, he scratched your hands, getting the same invisible ink under his own, getting the same 5-year-old invisible ink under his own fingernails. How long does this ink stay transferable? If it's something like a UV ink, it doesn't stay like wet for years. Or like if it dried on someone's skin, would you? This is weak. Yeah, so they're checking with a UV light. I can believe the ink would be on her hands. I don't believe it would be that transferable to the point where if she touched some paper, it would come off her fingers onto the paper. Because the whole point of it is to mark those specific books as being first editions. If it then transferred from your hands to literally every other book you touched, then that would be pointless. It's supposed to stay on one book, the book you supposedly put it on, not everything you touch. The manuscript grabbing incident happened in the observation car. It's not like it happened in Lily's office and then ink got knocked over and spilt everywhere or something like that. That's a weak plot point. Doesn't hold up to scrutiny. I'm not impressed, Snowcat. Okay, puzzle for the day. So upon searching Imogen, they find a small folded piece of paper. It appears to be the final unsent page of a letter, a desperate attempt to justify her actions. But then it also says it's a simple, compassionate plea. But Ezra looks at the underlined stuff and believes it's a secret message hidden in the open. Now, I do believe there is a corrections. Oh, yeah, it's totally different. It's not about underlining words in the PDF. It's all caps. Seemingly random use of all caps letters feels a sudden chill. Final arrogant boast. Key seems to be hidden in the message itself. I know you see a monster, but I simply wanted to make a flawed story better. I am just the editor. I know you all loved it. After all, we can agree that the story is what matters. That's the key. And the capitalized letters, well, I'll put it on the screen. You'll be able to see. L-A-W-J-U-S. L-A-W-J-U-S-L-T-L-L. So if we assume the capital letters make up the ciphertext, then maybe the key word is something like story, because it says we can agree the story is what matters. That's the key. Should we go to maybe try a Vignere cipher? Yeah, that's correct. And the plain text is, this was fun. Oh, she's a bit of a psycho. Brutal. Yeah, final arrogant boast, secret message hidden in the open. So, okay, that's the end of day 21. Here we go again. Day 22, The Sparrows Fall. So I've just finished reading it, and it's a lot more dramatic than I was expecting. Honestly, I thought the last few chapters would just be kind of wrapping everything up and maybe filling in some of the background information which we've received as clues, but we don't quite have answers to yet. But no, this was the action sequence. So it carries on straight after the end of the last chapter, no break. So it's Imogen with her UV reactive hands, and basically she snaps, and instead of the traditional classical murder mystery gathering, which is all quite dignified, no, she goes full on modern and starts yelling at Ezra, and then she grabs like a silver urn, throws it at the train car window, which smashes, so like safety glass goes everywhere. she uses that distraction to bolt down to the sleeping compartments, where she gets into her own room up with like a chase sequence down the train, and she retrieves from inside the lining of her suitcase the little velvet jewelry box which holds the other half of the heart locket. I don't think I fully realised that this Lily's locket had been snapped in two. I thought it was one of those lockets which is designed to be half of a heart. And this is where the story was like, don't quite believe it, but apparently the edge of this broken part of the locket is so sharp that it can be used as a threatening weapon. It's not as big as a knife or anything. It's a bit weird because she uses it as a weapon because everybody's kind of in her doorway trying to get her to hand herself in, basically. But she instead lunges forward, kind of grabs Agatha, uses her as like a human shield, holds the broken heart locket up to her throat as like a threat on her life. And there's me in my head just picturing the scene being like, I don't think you could do that much damage with a heart locket. I feel like you would maybe scratch the skin. But I know she's an old lady, so maybe that's more of a threat than I realise. Anyway, she, using Agatha as a shield, she goes backwards to the observation car, back to the scene of the crime. Ezra kind of distracts her and keeps her occupied by telling her that this ending to their story is a clumsy derivative mess. He says it's full of plot holes. You left a witness who saw you. You left a trophy, the other half of the locket, with the second victim. You revealed your intimate forensic knowledge to a train full of suspects. And then he says, they're amateur mistakes. Dashiell Sinclair could have written a better plot in his sleep. Which I thought was a great line. And yeah, as this is going on, Imogen is kind of explaining herself, kind of in terms of, you know, she's just losing the plot. She's so angry and she's ranting, and she's, you know, she's saying to Agatha, Lily wasn't your heir. She's a sentimental fool. She wrote about feelings. I write about patterns. I should have been your protege. I was the one who deserved her life. So as I suspected, it's professional and personal jealousy. What else did you need to know? Yeah, she was presenting this as being like a great ending to their story. She's saying, you know, it's a closed circle mystery, a final surprising shock ending. And there's me like, it's not a shock ending, babes. I saw this coming a long time ago. Oh, well, I didn't see her like violence and madness coming, but I suspected her. And it ends with the police, the Italian police, rushing her basically from like either side of the observation car. They merge in and grab her, and then the broken half locket, knocked from her hand, skitters across the floor to come to stop at Ezra's feet. I did kind of half wonder if there was going to be another twist of, you know, it would turn out that somebody was manipulating Imogen into getting her to do all this, and like maybe she did, you know, feel some jealousy, but somebody else had like ramped her up and being like, you deserved this, and you know, Lily's work was rubbish and you're the genius and that kind of thing. But we've only got 2 days left to go. One's called The Confession and the other one is kind of like a later on series, so I suppose it could happen in the last chapter, but I don't think it will. And then the puzzle for the day. So Imogen's in custody. She gives her confession, her written confession, to the police, and then for her final statement on motive, she provides this encrypted text, which I'll put on the screen. But first, yep, there's a correction, even this late. Key for this is, I'm not sure if you need 2 keys or if this is 2 clues for 1 key. Strange steam recipe, always an anagram. Oh, so it's a anagram for masterpiece. A strange masterpiece results in a perfect creation. Returning again to one's sight, one finds the key to a better draft. Revision. Is it going to be Vignere? Nobody's corrected me on my pronunciation of that yet. It does say when asked for the keys, so it does need 2 keys. It's not 2 halves to 1 key. What was the puzzle that needed 2 keys? The columnar and then the one that I did wrong previously. Okay, had to turn my camera phone off because my battery's dying, but this is what I've got so far. So I'm pretty sure the keyword is masterpiece. Would help if I could count the letters a bit better. I'm not 100% sure what to do if there's multiples of the same letter, like the E's, but I've just kind of assumed that they are numbers 3, 4 and 5, just sort of left to right. The top section is a mistake, but this is the second section, so this is the decoded first set for the first keyword. The second keyword, so I was looking up columnar transpositions, and it does say that there is a double column option. To make the message even more difficult to decipher, you can take the plain text created by deciphering and then basically just do it all over again with the second keyword. This transposes the columns twice and makes the message extremely difficult to decipher. So I'm going to give that a go because that makes sense for them to do that rather than just repeating the same thing. They have repeated a couple of ciphers, but I can tell they've tried variety. Next, so the second keyword though is a bit trickier. Returning again to one site, one finds the key to a better draft. So it's either revise or revision. And saying it out loud, I think it's more like a revision because that makes sense with sight, vision, sight. H, I got right. T, M, A. I am the true author. See there? I am the true author. Cool. What does it mean though? She claiming Lily's... No, she wouldn't be claiming Lily's work as her own because she said she doesn't like Lily's work. She's saying she's the author of the experience of what all that's happened. Because this is part of her official statement on motive. She's the author of a life, something like that. Okay, it's the final day because yes, I'm reading 23 and 24 together because I've got too much else to be getting on with. We need to finish this up. This day 23 is called The Confession. I am wondering if we're ever going to get any information about all the other little subplot lines and the red herrings that were going on, because now we know that Lily's death has nothing to do with her investigations and her notes and her nosing around. It's only to do with jealousy. So there was a whole thing about the exchange in Vienna that she witnessed. Like, what was that? What was being exchanged? Are we going to find like what Dashiell was doing on the platform in Austria, the Austrian village? Are we going to find out why Agatha had Lily's heart locket? Why, if Sebastian retrieved the locket, the broken one, why is there a photo of Lily in it? If it was Lily's locket, why is it... You don't wear a locket with your own photo. Was Sebastian in love with Lily? Did he do something like put the photo in it? I've also realised that the literary prize that Imogen and Lily were fighting over, called the Blackwood Prize, which is Sebastian's surname. So did he like rig the competition for Lily's favour? And that's why Imogen is so angry at both of them? Because he, like, I don't know, let Lily win or like influence the decision somehow. She's pretty firmly believes that Lily's writing was inferior, but somebody like Dashiell, for instance, said, you know, she was amazing and wrote such dark psyche character studies kind of thing. And also the literary prize is not, as far as we know, directly linked to being Agatha's protege. I think it's just one of the things that they were both involved in. What else has there been that we haven't figured out? Why is Alistair acting so strange? Particularly when Imogen's room was rummaged in. Like, it was written about in the story that he was acting strange at that point. This isn't me interpreting it. Like, why would he care? What else has there been? Who sent Ezra that anonymous note right at the very beginning, which was like, you should get on the train and investigate this murder. I'm sure there's others, but that's all I can think of off the top of my head. But this chapter's called The Confession, so maybe she'll explain everything. Okay, so Imogen did get the notes from the judging Blackwood competition. Doesn't say it was from Sebastian, though. Just a junior member of the judging committee. Apparently, they thought that Imogen's work was more technically correct, but Lily's had heart. She wanted to confront Lily. And to what end? For her to hand over the prize? Ooh. She was not just a rival, she was a flaw in the narrative of my life. A flaw that needed to be edited out. Ooh, that's psycho talk. Yep, pushed her down the stairs. Oh, the locket was given to her by Lady Agatha, a token of her mentorship. It was supposed to be mine. I simply reclaimed it. She wanted to make the crime scene look like Lily had thrown the pages away. A woman who slips and falls is a statistic, but a brilliant young writer in fit of despair over the alleged flaws in her own work, casting her pages to the wind before she plunges to her death, that is a tragedy. That is a story with depth, with irony, with a beautiful melancholic ambiguity. Nobody ever considered this a suicide, or like that. I don't think the fact that her manuscript pages were around her was information we found out quite late. Now she's talking about killing Sebastian. She says he was a tiresome complication, the grieving childhood friend seeking revenge, a tired cliche. It's a hat pin that she used to deliver the poison she just apparently made herself. So she told Sebastian that the pages of Lily's manuscript that she'd actually found in Agatha's papers, and she'd taken them. So it was his handling of those pages which got the UV ink on his fingers. She'd handled it first and then him. Even though I'm still not convinced about this ink remaining wet for days. Yeah, so she was pointing Sebastian towards Agatha being the culprit. He had seen the pictures with the same locket as Lily and never bothered to find out that she had a jeweller who makes them especially for her to gift to every new protege. Like microchipping a dog, really. And she also used to wear one. But it became too painful to wear it after Lily's death. So the one Sebastian had was definitely the one Lily wore. So why is there a photo in it? He doesn't fully believe her. But then he made a fatal error. He was a better investigator than I had anticipated. He started looking at me. He said my story was almost too perfect, too many coincidences. How was it possible that I was able to find every crucial clue? He saw the structure. He saw the author's hand at work. A recurring theme in this book is like authors trying to create their own stories in real life. Ooh, he lunged for the pages, a clumsy, sentimental gesture to secure his evidence. But I, of course, was prepared. An author is always ready for a surprise twist. So if he lunged for the pages, so if they're fighting in her cabin, why didn't she deal with him then? So they have a fight over the evidence. He starts to suspect her, but she doesn't kill him till, what, the next day? A while later? He didn't express his theories with anyone, did he? Surprised he didn't write that in his notes, though. Like, if they did separate after this altercation, go their separate ways for at least a while. But he was suspicious of her. He didn't record that in his notebook. I had the hat pin ready. While he was grabbing for the dead woman's story, I was already writing his final line. I left the locket with him as a final proof of Agatha's guilt. Why didn't you stab him then? Why are you stabbing him the next day as part of the murder mystery game? Imogen finished her cold clinical account of Sebastian's removal. Her composure finally began to crack. She's really making it sound as if she stabbed him at that point whilst they were having their argument. Or he was starting to suspect her. There's no mention of the fact that time passed and she did it as part of the game later on. She really doesn't like emotions. She's raging at Ezra. Basically saying he spoiled everything, I think. You with your clumsy, sentimental blundering. You were a blunt instrument. You were supposed to be my detective. Logically accusing Agatha in the final act. That was the ending. That was the art. But you couldn't stay on script. You had to find the one tiny, irrelevant flaw of the archival ink that I had overlooked. Because it doesn't make sense, Imogen. Yes. Fair enough. That archival ink should not have been a contributing factor. I gave Lily a better death than she deserved. I gave Sebastian a dramatic exit worthy of his talent. I wrote you all into the greatest mystery of the modern age. I gave you a perfect story. Why couldn't you just let me finish it? And then the puzzle, which I know is not a correction in the file because yesterday was the last one in the document. Okay, Ezra's gone back to Imogen's compartment. There's a single sheet of paper. It's a final arrogant performance, a message encoded using a system of her own design. Am I going to be able to figure this out? Actually, never mind. I didn't need to go and get a pen and paper, really. You can just read it from the book. It's I thought you were going to have to, construct this author's keypad and, draw it out. No, you can just read the numbers. They're not actually all that jumbled. And it translates as, my will is law. Wow, she's really full of herself and her importance, sense of importance. Okay, day 24, the aftermath. Happy Christmas Eve, by the way. Ezra's reputation is redeemed. The authorities have seized the shipping manifests of the ledgers from Alistair's company, his grandfather's ledgers. So we'll be having some chickens come home to roost. Penelope is setting up a literary foundation in Lily's name to fund a prize or an annual grant for a young writer. It would not be a prize for the most clever plot or the most intricate puzzle. It would be a prize for the most honest story. A prize for writers who have heart. The thing that got Lily in trouble, you're going to commemorate, sure. Linus has been arrested for obstructing justice. I think Agatha's going to look after him. Ooh, Agatha's having a bit of a revelation about the train experience. I created a world where the puzzle was more important than the people. I rewarded intellect over empathy. I saw a reflection of myself in Imogen, and I was flattered. I never saw the envy behind the admiration. Good point. She wants Ezra's story to be a warning about the profound and terrible difference between a story and a life. I hope Agatha has learned that as well with her literary writing prompts that are just poking at people's problems and injuries. Ugh, it's getting a bit sappy now. This is the inspector talking to Ezra. She says, well done on the job and everything. You have a good heart, Mr. Doyle, a quality that is often undervalued in our line of work, like Miss Montclair. Ugh. And that's the end. It ends with, before getting in the car, he took one last look back at the Yuletide Express. It sat silent and dark under the falling snow, a beautiful, haunted relic whose story was finally told, whose ghosts had finally been set free. We do have one more puzzle to do. Oh, he's got another anonymous note from this client who everyone has been ignoring for the last 24 days. Okay, final case file audit. Full circle test. So reverse alphabet again. Decrypt everything, then put your report, or put the report in order. Okay, so those words decrypt as HHRML. I think there's some spelling mistakes. I think it's meant to be legacy, unless some of the letters are deliberately wrong. But yeah, legacy, obsession, deception, witness, evidence, narrative, loyalty, execution. Why is there space in narrative? In legacy they've got legacy. It's just right up until the very last day. There's mistakes in this book. Nobody checked the puzzles. Nobody checked that the AI wasn't writing a load of nonsense. Okay, I'm just checking the solutions file to see if I'm going mad with these mistakes, or if I thought that you might have to use either the wrong letters or the correct letters that should be there. No, it's nothing to do with the spelling mistakes. But yeah, there's a second part that I've just ignored because I got distracted by these mistakes. Because yeah, it does say decrypt everything, then put the report in order. So if you take the first letter of each word, scrambled, it spells out well done. So there's no final reveal that like Imogen's strings were being pulled by somebody else. Unless it's in the epilogue. I think there was an epilogue. Actually, is the epilogue going to tell us who the bloody client is? Who do I think it is? If I had to guess now without looking at it at all, is the client maybe like one of Sebastian's relatives, older relatives, who set up the Blackwood Prize and they want justice for their former prize winner. And they maybe know that Sebastian is going on the train to investigate because childhood friend, he won't let it go. And they're worried that Sebastian might get into trouble, so they want to send a proper, not detective, investigative journalist along to either help him or prevent him from getting in trouble by like solving Lily's murder first, in which case they failed, if that is the backstory. That's my guess. That's my official guess as to who the mysterious client is. Also, if you were running a literary prize, you'd have the money to hire a law firm to like run all this manipulation through, because that's who the letter to the reader at the very, very, very beginning is from Arthur Grimsby Esquire on behalf of a private and confidential client. Yeah, solicitors and barristers in London. Grimsby, Finch and Associates. I don't think we've come across any of those names before. Yeah, well, sorry, what I was going to say is I think it would be really weird to have the literary prize and a main character have the same surname if it wasn't significant. Let's find out. Epilogue. No. No. Well, that's a pity. I thought that was quite a good idea. Okay. So we have no idea who sent Ezra that note at the very beginning or the very end. No idea who the anonymous client is. Vivian never said anything about a client the whole time. That's unsatisfying. Yeah, anyway, so the epilogue is basically just an excerpt from the book that Ezra is writing about this experience. And it's him saying that, you know, this isn't a thriller. It's not about the criminal. It's about the victims and honouring their lives and their work. And it just kind of gives a little summary about the fate of a few of the characters. So Imogen is serving consecutive life sentences. Penelope and Agatha have set up this literary fund. Alistair Kingsley has been convicted for fraud. Dashiell Sinclair has had a quiet, ignominious retirement from public life. Why? He didn't do anything, apart from gambling debts, but that's his own problem. Vivian has had a triumphant return to the top of her profession, and Hazel is now a journalist writing for The Guardian. No mention of Linus. I assume Agatha helped him out and he didn't get in trouble for long. And then that's it. All done. So what did we think of this experience? I want to know what you thought. Me, it was weird. If this book hadn't had puzzles in it and wasn't broken up to follow Advent, and I was just reading it as a normal murder mystery, I would have been so pissed off with all the inconsistencies and the suspension disbelief that went too far and things that I felt just didn't make sense or weren't followed through. But there's something about the way it was broken up and the way that you don't take it seriously at all. It kind of allowed me to skim over those. Are these problems because it was written by AI, or are they because that's just how Edna J. Winthrop wanted the story to go? We'll never know. The puzzles, I really liked that they were there because I love a good puzzle. I used to work in an escape room. Oh, right up my alley. I liked the variety of ciphers. I wish they had been a bit clearer about the variety, and if I were writing this, I would have put in an appendix and been like, you will come across these ciphers throughout the entire book. Don't put them in order, don't tell you how many times they occur, but just that little bit of guidance of like, of all the hundreds of ciphers in the world, focus on these ones. Obviously, needed massive proofreading, particularly for the puzzles, and the corrections document for the puzzles. So that is the biggest problem with the book experience. I'm just thinking, when I worked in the escape room, we never would have sent this out as an experience or a product that people would pay for. Like, never in this state. We would have had playtesters. We had those for the escape rooms themselves, and our games that you could hire and like take away, and all our like online games that you could play anywhere in the world. We always had friends and family playtest them. It's just part of the process. And yeah, you need that time and that, you know, that money to make sure it's a product that people will pay for and not get, you know, pissed off and demand a refund. A friend of mine was suspicious that the mistakes on the art would be used in the book and the puzzles. I told her she was overthinking it. But I still like the idea of the story and the puzzles and making it last the whole 24 days. Yeah, I do wish we'd been told who the client was though. It kind of renders the whole thing a bit silly. But for a book that was AI written, it wasn't too bad really. Like, better than I thought it would be. But I haven't read anything written by AI before, so yeah, that's kind of not great for the future of human artistry, but maybe useful for this particular human. But I don't know. What does the future hold? Anyway, Merry Christmas. I hope you're all having a lovely day. However you choose to spend it. Hope you have a nice break over Christmas and New Year's, and I will be seeing you in January for my end of year wrap up stuff. Thanks very much for watching. Bye bye.